Roughly 2 years ago I reviewed Top Gear Rally, which is one of those rally games that's not really a rally game, but instead just a simple racing game. I didn't give it a very favourable review, and because of that this generated quite a bit of backlash considering how big my channel was at the time. I personally think that the quality of my videos have improved and that I've become a better reviewer since I reviewed Top Gear Rally, so I think it's just about time to review its sequel, Top Gear Overdrive. I should add that there was also a Top Gear Rally 2, but since that and Overdrive were released at roughly the same time, it seems that both are considered sequels. Top Gear Overdrive was released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64, this time being developed by Snowblind Studios instead of Boss Game Studios. This time it's actually a racing game instead of a racing game on dirt tracks masquerading as a rally game, and it has a different developer. Will those facets be enough to change my view on the series? Well, I guess you'll just have to keep watching to find out now, won't you? I have you trapped now.
Starting it up for the first time, I was greeted with first impressions. First impressions are important, and this is how the title screen started it all off. Not letting such a silly sound dissuade me though, I jumped straight into the races. The incredibly slippery controls were immediately apparent, but wanting to give this a fairer review this time around since that's how this arcade racer is apparently supposed to be like, I tried my best to get used to it. It was hard work getting the cars to do what I wanted them to do, as at times I would get frustrated and feel like I was controlling a Saab with cut brakes and ice creams for wheels, but I prevailed and eventually got used to it enough to result in happy days. Unfortunately however, this was short-lived as I quickly encountered another problem. As much as I tried and tried, taking every corner perfectly, I found that by the second season of the championship that I had a lot of trouble overtaking the opponents, resulting in crappy finishing positions. I was getting close to throwing in the towel and bracing myself for another negative review or I might get another whole 5 dislikes, when I figured out where I was going wrong. Scattered throughout each level there are these shortcuts, some of which are obvious and a few that are a bit more hidden. If you figure out where these are and use them every lap, you get a very decent advantage that quickly advances you through the ranks. So, with myself finally figuring out how to play this game properly, I decided to give it a more positive review. Because you see, once I got over those humps, I actually quite enjoyed this game. Now the cars do slip and slide all over the place a bit too ridiculously, but I eventually found this to be a part of the fun. It can be frustrating as sudden corners after jumps will result in explosions, meaning that there is a bit of trial and error and memorization that goes into racing each track, but after a while I didn't mind it. It just felt like how the game was meant to be played. Some may see it as broken, but give it enough of a chance and you'll realise the quirks are simply Overdrive's main mechanics. You mainly play through the championship mode, but there is an arcade mode of sorts hidden in the multiplayer menu for some reason. In championship mode though, you race for a handful of tracks, placing a minimum of 4th in each race to progress. There's a few cool ideas thrown in to make it more interesting, such as the ability to upgrade and buy more cars. Each car can also have its handling, acceleration, and top speed upgraded for a fee at the end of each race, with money being earned depending on what position you finish, as well as pads scattered throughout the tracks. These pads lose their value for about 5 seconds after someone else drives through it, meaning you could miss out if you're racing near the AI, but it should be noted that there are pads usually tucked away in the shortcuts too. There are pads that give you Nitrous Oxide charges too, which is a nice addition to the franchise that Overdrive's predecessor did not have. Each car starts off with 3 charges, but these can be stockpiled by using the pads and can also be bought with the earned cash. Another nice feature is that the cartridge supports Savestates, which is also automatic too, so there's no need to worry about passwords, controller packs, or even remembering to save actually. So, happy days compared to the original, right? Well, not totally. There are a few gripes that I had. For one, the reversing mechanic is broken as it has no dedicated button. I recall this was a problem with Top Gear Rally 2, meaning that if you crash into something but don't explode, it's quite the ordeal to straighten yourself up, which wastes valuable time. Another part I didn't like was the third-person camera. It was simply too low, which meant that on higher vehicles, the view in front was partially cut off, especially when going up hills. Lastly, I was disappointed by the lack of the paint shop. This was a cool part of Top Gear Rally, where you could add your own designs to the cars. Of course, that and the 2 other complaints don't kill this game completely, but I thought they were important enough to mention. Overdrive uses the RAM pack for a high-res mode, which I turned on throughout the course of this review. Sadly, when I started, the lighting in some of the levels was quite non-existent, and I had a real tricky time seeing where I was going. Luckily, in the settings menu you can turn on a setting called brightness, which lightens everything up. Some of the sunnier levels look a bit too overexposed with that on, but that's the price you pay to see where you're going, I guess. Otherwise, there's a few decent graphical effects added. For For one, the reflection on the cars seem to be generated in real time, which is something I don't think I've ever seen in an N64 game, and if the headlights are on, they light what's in front also in real time. Another nice feature is that all the cars have transparent windows too. The environments are a bit murky, so the detailing on the cars is a nice touch. The whole game features licensed music by a band called Grindstone. I turned it off for this review because of the dreaded evil Content ID. Dun dun dun! But it seems to be okay music. In all honesty, I turned it off basically as soon as I figured I might get a copyright infringement, but they seem to be something like alternative rock. I guess having it there is nice, but ultimately, it's up to you if you want the music enabled or not.
Overall, not a bad racer at all. I liked it a lot more than Top Gear Rally, that's for sure. I did have a rough start and you may or may not too, but I think it's worth playing it for a few hours to give it a chance. The handful of tracks are expanded on by offering differing weather conditions, and later on you can race those tracks reversed as well. There are plenty of unlockable vehicles as well, including this donkey in a box. There's also the multiplayer mode too, which should offer plenty of replayability.
Hey retro gamers, and like always, thanks for watching. A couple of cool things have been on my blog recently, including a few retro scans of computer adverts for Australian retailers Dick Smith and Harvey Norman from 1995, my adventure in restoring a 1970s scientific calculator, and also how I scored Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 completed in their boxes for $3 each. If you want to check out those and more, then click the Retro Game On logo on screen now, or visit www.retrogameon.com. The link can also be found in the description. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next time.